Well, hey everybody, Pastor Matt with an episode here of 1724 Wise, and this is for our young adults: wisdom, inspiration, success, and encouragement. Today I want to talk to you about the voice of the Lord. You know, I've been talking to you the last couple weeks, and even previous to that, about knowing God's will, knowing God's plan, who you're going to marry, and a lot of it comes down to seeking God for your life. And so when God does speak, how's he going to tell you? I mean, is he going to have a banner up on 70? Is he going to fly an airplane with a banner behind it? How's he going to show you? And so today I want to give you a scripture about hearing the voice of the Lord. It's found in 1 Kings chapter 19. We're going to look at verses 11 and 12. The guy's name is Elijah. Okay, he's a prophet. And Elijah's had a bad day, and he needs to hear God's voice. And this is where we're at. Then God said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks into pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. So it was, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entrance of the cave. You know, there was a great wind, there was a fire, a storm, an earthquake, and the Lord's voice wasn't in any of those things. But the Lord's voice came in a very still, small voice. And here we are, several thousand years later from this, when this happened in the Bible, and the Lord still speaks by a still, small voice. He's not going to shout at you. Very rarely does anybody hear an audible voice of God. But let me tell you how you can hear God's voice. Number one, pray. Ask God to show you. Ask God to speak to you. Then once you're done praying, though, what you got to do, and this is where most people miss it, is you listen. Sometimes people call this meditation. You sit there in stillness and quiet, meditating and thinking on God. And at that time, you're going to have thoughts begin to be planted into your head, into your heart. And many times that truly is the still small voice of the Lord, okay? Now, a lot of times, especially as young people, you're like, now, was that God? Was that my flesh? Or was that the devil trying to make me think it was God? And then we go mind games back and forth. Well, what you got to do as a young person is you just have to at some point step out in faith and say, you know what? I want to trust I heard the voice of God. And when you step out in faith that you heard that voice, that you begin to act on what you heard, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to have a corresponding peace in your heart that as you begin to step out, you're like, yeah, that's right. That feels really good. And you'll see the things line up with that voice. In other words, you'll see the evidence that you heard correctly. Or you'll begin to step out and you'll feel an anxiousness on the inside. It just won't feel peace. There won't be joy on it. And there won't be corresponding evidence to back up what you heard. And by doing that through a process of trial and error, you learn to hear the voice of the Lord. So maybe now you're 18 or 20 years old, and you know what? You might miss it a time or two, and that's okay, because God will speak again. And he's merciful, and he'll show you. In John 10:27, my sheep hear my voice. So I want to challenge you, step out in faith and begin to listen for that still small voice. God bless you. I'll see you next week.